Hi and welcome. In this Simplifier tutorial we will monitor a device via our updated OPC UA connector. To begin, we'll use the Browse OPC UA service to find the correct node ID of our temperature variable, initiate a subscription to a variable of the node, and then display the incoming data in the UI. Before we start this tutorial, make sure you have the following prerequisites: the URL of your OPC UA server. Additionally, ensure that the IP is reachable from the Simplifier instance you are using. Also, verify that you have the necessary permissions on the OPC UA server. Ensure you have a Simplifier user account with permissions to create and utilize apps, as well as connectors. Let's begin by creating the connector. Navigate to the connector view and create a new connector. Choose OPC UA as the type and give the connector a name of your choice. Next, go to the Endpoints tab and configure the OPC UA endpoint for your Simplifier server instance. The login method will depend on your setup. For our simulation server, we use an anonymous login. To ensure everything is set up correctly, you can test the connection. Once everything looks good, go ahead and save the connector. We will now set up a browse call to find the node ID of our device. Add a new call in the Calls tab. Give the connector the name Browse and enter the following input parameters. You can refer to the documentation to learn more about these parameters. The link is in the description. Click Save and Test to proceed to the test dialog. Here, fill in the namespace and identifier of your top-level node. After clicking Test, the connector will call the OPC UA server with the configuration you provided. Now you'll see the result of the request and can copy the namespace and the identifier of the variable you would like to monitor. Note: the identifier 1013 of the analog signal variable of the temperature object will be used later for the subscription call. In order to subscribe the data of a variable, we need to create another connector call. Add a new call in the Calls tab. Give the connector the name Monitor and enter the following input parameters. Note that you will provide the namespace index and the identifier at a later point. Use value as the output parameter to pass it later to the user interface. Now save and close the dialog. Now, let's create an application that utilizes the connector we just configured to obtain and visualize the data. In the Applications menu, add a new application by providing a name and description, like OPC UA Monitor. Select the Login wizard to quickly set up authentication for the new application. Choose the appropriate authentication method configured on your instance. Once the wizard has completed, navigate to the predefined screen called Welcome. Add a Flexbox widget as the layout. Add a card to the UI by dropping a F_card onto the UI Designer preview and give the card a name card_temperature. Add an F_cards_numeric header to the header section of the card. Enter a suitable label in the title property of the card header widget, like temperature. Now let's create the logic to retrieve the data. Go to the Process Designer and create a story, like Monitor variable. Add a subscribe event shape for the OnAfterShow screen event, which will be the trigger to start the monitoring. Add a connector shape, set it to asynchronous, and select the connector you previously created. Use the monitor call. Connect the event shape with the subscribe port of the connector shape and go to the input mapping dialog of the connector. Add two constant shapes to define your namespace, 42, and identifier, 1013, and map them to the corresponding input parameters of the connector call. Apply the changes and go to the output mapping dialog. Drop the card widget onto the canvas, double-click the shape, and select the number property. Map the output parameter result value of the connector call to the property. Apply the changes, save the story, and deploy your application. Now you can monitor the data in real time, and that wraps up our tutorial. We've successfully used the OPC UA connector to retrieve and visualize real-time data. Thank you for watching this tutorial. See you in the next one. Stay awesome.